advantages. But.
Let's turn to the business community here. Is it a good climate to run a business?
Relative to the other places in the country, I think it's a terrific climate. I mean, apparently the 1% still has plenty of money, and they like coming to Nantucket and spending it.
But obviously I think that's true, but I meant really from the standpoint of running a business and doing business here.
I don't think it's any more challenging than it would be anywhere else. And I don't have a lot of experience to base that opinion on.
But you do have experience in the restaurant business, which is one of the more highly regulated.
Yeah, I don't think, I actually haven't, I don't believe it to be, the part of it, the part of the regulation that I would say is sort of discretionary or subjective, I have not found it to be overly burdensome. I think what is becoming burdensome is the ever-increasing tax burden from all the different initiatives. The additional cost of providing, either providing medical care or contributing to the fund, which is certainly it's a worthwhile objective, but in fact somebody's got to pay for it.
That's right.
And somebody's got to contribute. The employers have to contribute to unemployment insurance fund, and you might not be, but a lot of people would really be shocked by the amount of money that comes into a small restaurant and goes right out the door again. So people are very sensitive about the prices, and yes, they're very high, but I can tell you that the profit margin at the end of the year is.
I remember one of the Silvas told me that it cost them, and this was several years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, that it cost them in the neighborhood of $6,000 just to open the door every night.
Yeah, that's a reasonable guess.
Probably, yeah.
It's really pretty amazing. And insurance, I mean, insurance rates are very high out here. So, workers' compensation insurance is everything's high. And so, and in addition, if you want to be, if you're a restaurant that really wants to get serious about using local ingredients, and the costs are just high. So, but getting back to your original question, I don't think that the regulation is that burdensome.
That's good to hear.
In fact, some of my experiences as just a private citizen I have found more burdensome than as a restaurant owner. Go get a permit for a beach fire some night, and I think you would find yourself making as many as 6 stops at 6 different locations around town in order to do that. And I think that's something that town administration is working on, to their credit. I think maybe as soon as next year, you'll make 1 stop, and I think that's the kind of thing that will it was a pleasant surprise to discover we're working on it, and once we implement it, it's one of those things that people will forget how bad it used to be, and they'll just take for granted that it's been solved, which is good.
The season in Nantucket has sort of shrunk a little bit, I've gathered, from a period in the mid-2000s when there was a real shoulder season, particularly in the fall. Not so much in the spring, but still good. And that many people have the perception that it's shrunk back to just 4th of July to Labor Day. Now, obviously, we have all the wedding business and so forth in the fall. But do you think the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitors Bureau and so forth should be doing more to promote shoulder season business and the business owners as well?
To begin with, that my experience doesn't really bear out that theory. The 2 or 3 years immediately after the stock market crashed, I would say that was the case. But last year, the fall was the strongest I can ever remember. And this year, it's almost as strong. And it's a combination of things. I mean, the weather's been very nice, but that simply hasn't been my experience. And I don't know that the chamber or business are really capable of taking action that's going to enhance the people who come here. Maybe they can. I think it's more societal and macroeconomic and weather than anything else. And again, I think relatively speaking, Massachusetts is doing well economically. Nantucket's still a magnet for people. I think it's a magnet for retirees who tend to travel in the fall. And I don't think maybe on the margin you could accelerate that a little bit, but I guess that's a long answer to a short question, which is no. I don't think there's too much they could do.
How are we doing on time?
It's good.
Good. Let me delve off and go off into another direction. One of the discussions again last night was about a little bit touched on the role of the not-for-profit in the community here. There are over 100, probably, I don't know, close to 150 now registered not-for-profit organizations. There are obviously some of them that are at the margins, but there are many in the middle of the, very much in the mainstream. And the role of those not-for-profits in the community as an economic driver, I would assume you would agree, is pretty important.
Definitely.
To take this to a sort of national level, the debate about the limitation on the charitable deduction and so forth. Do you think that will have an impact here, or do you think Nantucket still has enough of the 1% that the change would not impact our?
Well, I guess it would depend on how much of the deduction was lost. If it was lost completely, I think there would be an impact. I think it would be less here than it would be a lot of places, particularly for the more glamorous nonprofits. I mean, I think with those, it's a lot more than the tax benefit. I mean, there's a prestige element, there's a social element. Now, as you get further and further down the food chain of nonprofits, I suspect the impact would be much more significant.
Do you think that the places like the hospital, which at the moment really operates without any public money, that the town, if their support under those circumstances were to dwindle, that the town should step up to help out? Or do you think that we're going to have a fundamental change in the way healthcare is delivered here?
Wow, no softball questions today.
You're not a softball guy.
I don't know that there should be a fundamental change, but I think there would have to be a fundamental reevaluation, perhaps leading to change. I mean, again, I'm far from an expert, but I recently have learned some things about healthcare on the Cape. One of which is that Cape Cod Hospital, I believe, recently spent, I think it's $100 million on a new cardiac facility. I think it's like perhaps one of the best in the country. Now, I wasn't aware of that. You might not have.
I was not aware.
Yeah.
Of it.
And so, that being the case, you wonder why everybody invariably people here go up to Boston, which is further away than the Cape. And that's really anecdotal, but it just kind of brought home to me the fact that maybe there's information out there that we're not all aware of, and maybe there's an opportunity for regional health delivery as opposed to purely local
or centralized.
Yeah,
as
it is
now at Mass General.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't, the dollars are so big. I can't imagine how barring some drastic change in how the town is doing business, I don't know where the town would find the resources to do that.
That brings me to my last question. The tax rate here is very low compared to most other communities. The taxes people pay here are very low compared to most other communities. Is there room for any expansion of the tax rate other than for bare necessities here?
I think there is, and I actually think it's starting to happen sort of under the radar screen. I think for a long time, people were very resistant because they didn't know where the money was going, and they were concerned that it wasn't being spent efficiently. I think as a sort of a stopgap solution, we started to pass these overrides that are very project specific. So people would say, well, sure, if I'm willing to spend money for this project, which is very clearly defined, I know how much it's going to cost, and I support it. But I'm not willing to throw money into a black hole. And I think what I'm seeing is as the town starts to run more efficiently, and there is clear evidence that it is, you know, I could give you a lot more specific examples. I think at some point, when we've restored the confidence level in the operation of town government, I think people would then, I think sensible people would be willing to go along with a modest increase in taxes. But in the meantime, I think the way we've been handling it, I think, is actually pretty successful. You know, we get the really important things without disturbing the apple cart in a general way.
Good. Well, thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. It's been great.
You're a great guest, and
thank you.
You give some
you're
very thoughtful answers.
a tough questioner. Next time I'm going to ask for the questions in advance so I can be
No
prepared.
way.
I like being prepared.
You did very well.
Not what I expected. So anyway,
what did you expect?
A little airport talk, perhaps.
Yeah, well,
next time
you can't talk about that. You've got a conflict.
Next time I'll sit behind
All right, fair enough.
The counter and ask you questions about how much fun you're having on the airport commission.
That's fair.
So, okay.
All right,
Great.
thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.